Assalamu alaikum, I'm Engineer Hamna Shakil. In this video, we are going to have a look at an example of absolute polar system. So if you want to draw this triangle using the absolute polar system, turn off the dynamic mode, invoke the line command, specify the first point. The first point will be specified using the x and y coordinates. So you can type 2, 1, press enter. The first point of the line has been fixed. To specify the second point, you have to specify the absolute polar coordinates of point number P2. In polar system, you specify length of the line and angle of the line. Because this is absolute system, length is taken from the origin and angle is also taken from the horizontal reference axis. So in this case, the distance between point number P2 and origin is 4.47 and the angle is 63.43. So you can type in the command line the length. After that, you have to specify the angle, and to specify the angle we do not press comma, instead we press angle bracket key on the keyboard and then type the angle, that is 63.43. Press enter and you can see that the second point has been specified. For the third point, again you have to specify the length and you have to specify the angle, and both from the reference origin. So the length is 7.07 and for angle type angle bracket and specify the angle, that is 8.13 degrees. Press enter. To specify the first point again, type the length, that is 2.24. Press angle bracket on the keyboard and specify the angle, that is 26.6 degrees. Press enter. So when the dynamic input is off, you can specify the length of the line, press angle bracket on the keyboard and specify the angle. If the dynamic input is on, go to the drafting settings, dynamic input tab, go to settings and select absolute polar format, click OK and OK. Invoke the line command again, specify the first point is at 2, 1. Then you have to specify the second point using the absolute polar system, and in the drafting setting, the setting has been set to absolute polar system. So you can type the length, that is 4.47, and instead of pressing comma, you can press the angle bracket on the keyboard and specify the angle, 63.43. Press enter. To specify the third point, type its length from the origin, that is 7.07. Press angle bracket on the keyboard, type the angle 8.13, press enter. And to specify the first point, type its length, that is 2.24. Press angle bracket and enter the angle, 26.6 degrees. Press enter and the triangle is ready. So if the dynamic input is on, go to drafting settings, change the system to absolute polar format, and then you can type length, press angle bracket on the keyboard and specify the angle. Third method is, if the dynamic input is on, but in the drafting settings, the settings are not set to absolute polar. Let me change the setting to any other format. And you want to type the coordinates in absolute polar system. Invoke the line command, specify the first point, and now to specify the second point in absolute polar system, you can use hash key on the keyboard, specify the absolute length of the line, press angle bracket on the keyboard and specify the absolute angle, 63.43. Press enter. To specify the third point, again use hash, specify the length, press angle bracket key and specify the angle. And now to go back to point number 1, again use hash, specify the absolute length, press angle bracket on the keyboard and specify the angle. Press enter, and to get out of the line command, press escape. So if the dynamic input is on, but in the drafting settings, the setting is not set to absolute and polar, you can specify the coordinates using hash, specify the absolute length, press angle bracket key on the keyboard and specify the absolute angle. So to summarize, if the dynamic input is off, enter coordinates like this: length, angle bracket key on the keyboard and absolute angle. If the dynamic input is on and in the drafting settings, the settings are set to absolute and polar, you can specify the length and angle like this: length, angle bracket key on the keyboard and absolute angle. If in the drafting settings, the settings are not set to absolute and polar, then you can use hash key on the keyboard, specify the absolute length, press angle bracket key on the keyboard and specify the absolute angle. If you have noted, we have been specifying the angle in the anti-clockwise direction. That is because in our unit setting, the clockwise direction for the angle is unchecked. It means that AutoCAD is taking angles in the anti-clockwise direction. So you can check the direction. East is taken as baseline. So this is your east line. Then you have the north line. Here you have west and here you have got south. So the angles are being taken in the anti-clockwise direction because the direction in the units has set to anti-clockwise direction. If you set this angle to clockwise direction, then you will have to specify angle in the clockwise direction. So instead of 26.6 degrees, you will have 333.4 degrees. So it is up to you whether you want to specify the angles in the anti-clockwise direction or you want to specify them in the clockwise direction.